Yo, what's going on,
Yeah.
everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Feud podcast. I'm your host, Stone Darrow. And before we get into our Thursday night football breakdown, I want to shout out our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are the Fantasy Feud on all those. And if you enjoyed today's video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe down below on who do you think is going to win the Thursday night football game. Paul, how's it going today, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. I just want to start this off by saying, let's go. It's the opening night for football tomorrow. I cannot wait for it. How are you guys doing? Send it over to Mason. What you got for us?
What's going on, everybody? Like Paul said, I'm super excited right now. Kickoff season doesn't matter because I'll be working, unfortunately, but I will definitely catch a recap of the game. I'm just so excited. Stone, do you want to go ahead and break down how we're going to do this episode today?
Yeah, for sure. But before I get into doing that, I just want to say I will not be working during the game. I'm going to be watching that whole entire thing. So, Mason, I feel so sorry for you.
All right, I'll be doing what I love, strength and conditioning.
Watching football is my thing I love, so I'll be doing the thing I love also.
The other thing I love.
Yeah, so for these Thursday night breakdowns that we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking about our biggest stars of the night and some over-under props and stuff like that, who will win the game. And first off, we're just going to start off with who do we think the start of the night actually is going to be. Paul, do you just want to start off and give us yours?
Yeah, mine's going to be Antonio Brown. I feel like he's going to take over in the slot for Tampa Bay. Obviously, we've seen what happened a couple years ago when he forced his way out of Pittsburgh, went to Oakland still at the time, forced his hand out of Oakland, got cut, whatever. He was able to go anywhere. And who was the first place that contacted him? New England Patriots and Tom Brady. Tom Brady absolutely loves this man. He sees past all of his character flaws. He sees him for a football player that he is, the talent that he brings to the table. And I think the stat that I heard was seeing a target on 27% of the routes that he ran last year. And I just continue to see that flourishing for him. So for me, he's my start of the night.
Gotcha. That's actually pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, Tom Brady's going to spread that ball around. So, Mason, who do you got?
Very nice. I'm going to go with the easiest one of the night. I do believe Zeke Elliott is going to come out and probably put up the best non-quarterback fantasy points of the night. And that's just because I think Dak might struggle a little. First game back, he's going to have the jitters. He's going up against a Super Bowl winning defense. They have everybody back. Zeke, I think he's just going to come back. He's looked good on HBO Hard Knocks. I think it's an easy pick for me.
Yeah, I
got a question for you, Mace. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Stone. Is the fact that they're all pro guard, Zach Martin being out, does that deter you in any way from Zeke being your start of the night?
Yeah, I saw that. I know that's happening. Yeah, I think it's impactful that he's out. But I do also think that offensive line is still good over there, and it does not completely deter fantasy players or fantasy points.
I think Zeke will be fine tomorrow, but I'm staying away from any Cowboy as my start of the night, specifically because of the defense they're playing, and specifically because of the defense that Tampa Bay is going to be playing against. So with that being said, my guarantee of the night is going to be Chris Godwin, the number 2 receiver behind Mike Evans, obviously. I mean, Dallas's pass defense has been miserable the last, 10 years now. And Chris Godwin's the number 2 behind Mike Evans, like I said, so you won't even see him getting covered by their best cornerback, DB. I just think Chris Godwin's a really safe and easy start here today.
Sure.
Very nice, very nice.
All right, so those are our starts of the night. So if you guys have those guys in your lineups, please plug them and play them because you will not be disappointed by their stat lines. Now we want to go over a couple of over-unders that are presented by DraftKings. And the first one that I want to talk about is Blake Jarwin tore his ACL last year, I believe, in the first game of the year after his first catch of the year. They have him at over-under 1.5 receptions. And Mason, I just want to see what your take on that is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be over. Dalton Schultz last year came out, proved that he can be a starting NFL tight end on this team. He can make things happen, but I believe Blake Jarwin is going to get a majority of the reps. I think he'll be fine. I think he's fully recovered. And yeah, I think he's going to come back and have that fantasy season he was supposed to last year. It's easy for me to say he's going to have over 1.5 receptions.
I agree with basically everything Mason just said. We've seen the emergence of Dalton Schultz as can be the guy. He's there as a backup, though. He's accustomed to that role for Blake Jarwin being the starter now. And I feel like over and under of 1.5 is pretty simple. I mean, I feel like most of us would have took that last year as well. But then he tore his ACL after one catch, one reception. He was done. I don't foresee that happening, and I feel like Dak's going to try to lean on some of the underneath routes a little bit more just because of how solid that defense is in the secondary specifically. They also don't have any slouch linebackers, so I'm going to go with the over as well with Mason.
Yeah, I think things to factor in here is Devin White, star middle linebacker, is definitely probably going to be seeing a lot of Blake Jarwin's routes. So if Devin White's on him, it's kind of hard to assume that Blake Jarwin's going to catch that many balls. And there's so many targets that go around in Dallas, too. I mean, obviously, you got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, Zeke Elliott's going to catch some balls. But that doesn't scare me. I still think Blake Jarwin is going to go on the over here. They should have might as well just name this Blake Jarwin over under 1.5 receptions on the season, honestly, because of last year, what happened.
That'd be
they're
funny.
trying to be a little dirty there with that, but I think it's an easy over, to be honest. I don't think that he'll have any problem getting more than 2 catches, even against this stacked defense.
Yeah.
The next one that we are going to do is Ronald Jones. He is predicted an over-under of 55.5 rushing yards, and this one's really interesting because the crowded backfield with Leonard Fournette. Bruce Arians, like we said in the past, is going to ride the hot hand. So who do you guys see as being the hot hand? Do you think Rojo will actually hit this mark of 55.5?
Well, if Football Lenny is still riding the hot hand from the playoffs, it might just be him. But Leonard Fournette is now another year older, another offseason older. I'm going to stand by what I said in our previous podcast. I think Ronald Jones is going to get a majority of the first and second down work with the Bucs. So I'm going to go with Ronald Jones over 55 yards.
Interesting. How about you, Paul?
I'm probably going to take the under. I foresee this offense kind of leaning more so on the pass with Tom Brady than the run, especially since it's still kind of undetermined who unquestioned starter is going to be. Like you said, Leonard Fournette, he might be the guy. Ronald Jones, he could be the guy. And if I'm not mistaken, it was basically Ronald Jones throughout most of the regular season last year. And then Fournette kind of took over late in the season. Like I said, I just feel like they're going to kind of pass the ball more. And with the addition of Antonio Brown for a full season, I think, like I said, that they're just going to lean on that pass a little bit more than the run game. But I could be wrong. But my bet, I would take the under on 55.5.
I'm with Paul with this one. I think the exact reason that he will be under 55.5 rushing yards is because of the pass game, just as Paul said. I mean, Dallas' secondary is obviously not very good, and the Bucs' pass offense is incredible. So they do not need to rely on their run very much. And even if they do, I'm not sure who's even going to get the yards. It's just a big question mark. Ronald Jones is the first snap starter, I believe, so he's obviously going to get the first attempt at it. If it's a 3 and out, then Fournette comes in the next drive. So you just never know with them. So I'm going on the under, not because I don't think Rojo is capable of it, but because I think the Bucs pass offense is just going to take over this game, and I think the Tampa Bay rush offense just is going to be kind of iffy tomorrow night, I guess.
Hey, man, if for some reason the Cowboys defense comes out and falls on their face, it's the whole team in general, then if they get up fast, then they're going to run the ball after. So, and I think there is a slight chance that the Cowboys come out and fall on their face. There's a lot of pressure on them and Dak Prescott. So,
well, I mean, you're also looking at the fact that Dak's coming off a season-ending injury, and half of that entire offensive line's coming off of a season-ending injury too. So
Yeah.
not only is the defense not good still, but at the same time, you have half of a new offense and they're ready to play again. It's their first game in over a year, so it's kind of tough to assume who's going to be ready to play on that offense. And
Very good point.
Zeke in people's eyes wasn't good, but I think he was still good last year. But
You're fine.
yeah, exactly. Next up on our over-under list, we have CeeDee Lamb, over-under 62.5 receiving yards.
Well, Stone, I'm going to let you start on this one because earlier you were mentioning an interesting stat, and I don't want to steal it. That's the first thing that came to mind.
All right, yeah, so I have CeeDee Lamb under 62.5 yards. Again, we talked about earlier how they have unlimited targets there with Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Schultz, Blake Jarwin, Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard's there. So many targets, the ball has to go around like crazy. Who do I think personally is going to be the receiver of the night for Dallas? Amari Cooper. He's a surefire number one receiver on the Cowboys, in my opinion. He's one of the best in the game, top 10 probably in the NFL. The stat that I had on CeeDee Lamb was last year he averaged about 58 receiving yards a game. He ended the season with around 965 yards, I believe, receiving. And I just don't see him getting it done against this stacked Tampa Bay defense. I think if you want to rely on a receiver here for Dallas, it's going to be Amari Cooper or even Michael Gallup for that matter.
Yeah, I like that take. I think I lean with you on that. And yeah, I'm with the fact that CeeDee Lamb was with a different quarterback all of last year. When did Dak Prescott get hurt last year?
It was
I believe it was around week 4 or 5.
yeah.
Oh,
It was week 5. I think through the first 4 games, they said he was averaging close to like 400 passing yards.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I'm way off on that. But yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb under 62.5.
I like both of those takes. And I already talked about the defense a little bit, specifically the secondary of Tampa Bay. I could see this possibly going one of two ways. Obviously, it's a 50-50 either way. I specifically think that none of the receivers will get, at least none of the Dallas receivers will get over 62. Think that defense, the corners are just going to kind of shut them down. The safeties over the top. I think that in a nutshell, it could actually be possible for both of them to go over 62 because we know Amari Cooper is a deep play receiver. It can only take one shot for him to catch a ball and go for 62 yards. And I also feel the same way about CeeDee Lamb. It just takes one bad misplay by the defense for him to kind of catch a ball, get open, and be able to run. But again, I think just because of how well that defense is playing, how well they played all of last year, I don't foresee any of them getting over 62.5 yards.
Super hot take with Amari Cooper not hitting 62.5. I thought it was pretty obvious that he'd get over that, to be honest.
I mean, Amari Cooper is still coming off of wasn't season ending, but he did come off-season ankle surgery, just like Dak Prescott. Obviously, Prescott's was worse, complete break, compound fracture, whatever happened there. But, I mean, he's still coming back. He's going to have to get acclimated to the full speed of playing defenses again, not just his own scout defense or his own first-team defense. I just have a feeling that going up against arguably one of the top 2 defenses in the league to start the season, I think there's just going to be a lot of rust to knock off for him.
So who would you think is going to be the most efficient offensive fantasy start for the Dallas Cowboys, Paul?
I would agree with what Mason said earlier, and I think it's going to be Zeke Elliott. He can catch passes out of the backfield. That's going to take pressure off of, I guess, a lot of the so he can catch some of the hot routes. He can take pressure off of the blitz packages that they're going to try to send towards them. I think they're going to specifically try to target the inside, the interior of the line, just because Zach Martin is out, their left guard. So, like I said, I think Zeke Elliott, he's still good. We know he was kind of a shell of himself last year, but that's also without his top quarterback, Dak Prescott, out there. When you have Andy Dalton or I don't even know who their other backups are, When you had those guys out there last year, you didn't have the same threat of throwing for 400 yards in a game. You didn't have the same deep threat ability of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. You missed Blake Jarwin. I just feel like kind of all those things jumbled together. It's going to make Zeke Elliott's night just a little bit easier, although he is going up against one of the top-ranked defenses.
I'm between Zeke and Cooper and even Dak for that matter, for the top guys on the Dallas offense, between the big three of their offense clearly. But if I had to lean towards one, I would say Amari Cooper. I think he's going to go over 100 yards and have at least a touchdown. I think he'll have a pretty good night. So talking about all these receivers and running backs, what about the guys that throw the ball to them? They are both set, Dak Prescott and Tom Brady, that is, for a over-under of 311.5 passing yards. And I guess we can start with Tom Brady, and we can send that one over to Mason.
Yeah, I think it's easy. They have the ability to go over the top. It's week 1. Why not get it going early? The Cowboys did sign a safety this year, DeMonte Kazi. I don't really know how to pronounce that very well. And, I mean, their cornerbacks aren't very good, to be honest. So I think it's easy that Tom Brady gets over 311 passing yards today. 312.
So you're saying that Tom Brady will go over 311 passing yards and Ronald Jones will rush for 56 rushing yards?
Yes.
That's so you're seeing a very easy, simple 400-yard game possibly from the Bucs against this Cowboys defense?
We just know that Tom Brady can go off at any moment.
Yeah.
Like it could be third quarter in, and Tom Brady could have 312 passing yards. Like, I just think that's very possible. But if it starts off slow, which I don't know, I'm still going to say Tom Brady over 311 and Ronald Jones over 55.5. Going bold today. I'm going to put my name on our Facebook when I'm right and put a bunch of captions next to it.
All right, Paul, what do you got then?
So Tom Brady's last season opener was in 2017 against the Kansas City Chiefs, which you guys can think back that far. They hadn't even drafted Patrick Mahomes yet, or that might have been the year that they did draft him. But they had Alex Smith at the helm, starting quarterback for them. They absolutely wiped the floor with New England. 42-27 to open the season. And subsequently, that was also the last time that a defending Super Bowl champion lost the season opener. I don't know if we're going to see the more sluggish season starter of Tom Brady. And the stats that I looked up a little bit ago, the first 3 games of the season, he had less than 300 yards. It took him to week 4 to get, I think it was like 360 or 370. But are we going to see the midseason form of Tom Brady, the one that kind of showed up a little bit in the preseason? I think within like 2 or 3 drives, he had almost 150 receiving or passing yards, and he got Mike Evans involved. He got Chris Godwin involved and Antonio Brown. I think it's kind of a toss-up one way or the other. I don't foresee him getting 311 yards just because I feel like what Mason talked about, they might get up early on Dallas just because of how bad their defense is. And then once it gets to that point, they might try to use the running backs to kind of just run the clock out to keep the game going, to keep the clock moving. But also at the same time, I think Tom Brady only had 7 games last year of 300 passing yards or more. So, I mean, that's 9 games that he didn't. That's almost half and half of the season.
Good.
I'm not saying it's bad. But it was a lot of the second half of the season that he got it. First 7 or 8 weeks, I think he only had 2 games. In the last
came into a new organization, right? Then they dealt with COVID all off season. I was pretty sure they were going to get off to a slow start. Tom Brady has never came back with such a complete squad in his life. Think about that. He's never
had a complete squad in his life, even coming into last year, dealing with COVID and everything. Yeah.
And now he's got the same team chemistry. Antonio, what did Arian say about Antonio Brown? This is Antonio Brown of 5 years ago.
Yep.
Like, they're gonna have whatever they want right off the rip. They have the ability to come out and just sling the ball. And that's why I think Tom Brady's gonna go over 311.5 yards. I said 4
Like
different
I said,
numbers.
I agree with you, but I agree with your first take more of that they're going to get up so much on them that they're just going to
How
lean
do you
on the
think they're
run,
going to get up?
continue to run the clock out to
Tom
try to
Brady,
keep that game going.
Scotty Miller, baby. Woo!
That doesn't mean he's going to get 300 yards, though. 311. He could have 270. He could have
They don't
290. He
take
could
their
have
foot off the
240,
brake
but he can have 4
until
touchdowns.
they don't take
So,
their
you know
foot
what
off
I'm
the
saying?
brake.
They might have those runs that kind of get him into the red zone, or they might have those 1 or 2 pass plays that get him into the red zone. And then from that point, he's dinking and dunking, trying to get to his receivers to score the touchdowns. Would
Tom
you
Brady's
be
all gas,
honest
no
to see
brakes,
Tom
dog. Let's
Brady
go.
come out with 270 yards and 4 touchdowns?
Say
Like,
that
what would
again?
you expect for them to happen? What do you expect if, say, three quarters of the way through the game, Tom Brady has 270 yards,
Yeah.
4 touchdowns, and they're just wiping the floor with Dallas 42-12 or 42-17 or something?
Tom
You
Brady
expect them to
leaving the
just keep
game.
throwing the ball to get him there?
Tom Brady will not
Do you
leave the
think they're going
game.
to try to run the
He'll
clock
leave
out?
the game. Come on now. If they're up
Tom
that,
Brady
if
won't
they're
leave the game.
if they're
Tom
up
Brady
30
won't leave the
points, he
game.
gonna leave the game.
Tom Brady don't leave the game. All gas, no brakes, baby.
I mean, he didn't leave the
Until
game
he
in New
takes
England.
one
That's
hit.
TB12. That vegan
Until he
diet.
takes
that
one
vegan
hit from
diet diet.
DeMarcus Lawrence and breaks his leg. And then we have another Joe Burrow incident.
Whatever
Oh,
shit
man.
that guy
He's
does,
gone for the
it
season.
keeps him good. And I think it's just him paying the refs off. But
Just
I'm
handing them
kidding.
dollar bills in the pocket during the game, right?
yeah,
All right. Well, what was your actual take, Paul? Is it under then? You never actually explicitly said
Yeah,
it.
it's under. I think it's going to be under for him.
I figured you would say under. I want to say it's going to be over, and my reasoning for that is, I think both quarterbacks will throw the ball over 30 times, and I think it's going to end up being not a shootout, but it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both teams definitely have the capability of hitting 30 points in this, and I think they're just going to be slinging the ball like at the end of halftime drives, end of game drives. I think they both have good potential to hit this mark, and I'm going to say Tom Brady does hit it because, Godwin, Mike Evans, blah, blah, blah. Anybody he really wants to throw it to, just give Scotty Miller 100. It doesn't matter who it is. They're all going to get 100. But
hell yeah.
but
I think Dak Prescott can definitely go over 311 because we're all making it seem like we trust the Bucks more than we trust the Cowboys right now. And if Dak Prescott does get down, he's just got to throw the ball the rest of the game. It's going to take the Zeke part out of the equation. But
I was going to, swing it over to Dak's 311.5, and I was going to bring up the fact that if Tampa Bay does start out strong, that's when Dak's going to have to go into full-on throw mode. And that is essentially all he was in last year before he got hurt, was just full sling the ball mode, and he was throwing 400 yards a game. So I think Dak Prescott will go over this yardage marker as well, even against Tampa Bay's defense. And I think Amari Cooper is going to have most of it, and I think Michael Gallup will have a pretty solid game along with it, and Blake Jarwin will have a sleeper game.
nice. I like it. Yeah, I just said it. I think he can go over 312 yards. Basically just because, like you said, they started out slinging last year, and if they do get down tomorrow night, then they have no other option other than to sling it. They have the wide receivers there.
I think I remember specifically, was it that Atlanta game where Atlanta botched the onside kick and they could have just recovered it and they just didn't fall on it for some reason and let Dallas get it? Wasn't that game like high 40s for both teams?
Wow. It was, because that was week 2 of the season, because then week 3 Chicago did the same thing with Nick Foles coming in. They came back on Atlanta when they had 30 points on the board. Them.
Poor Atlanta.
That was,
man.
I think that was the first time in history that the team had lost back-to-back games when scoring like 30 points and having, I think it was like a 21-point lead or something going into the fourth quarter. It was wild. They imploded in every possible way last year, Atlanta's defense.
Well, Paul, who do you got? Or not who do you got, but do you have Dak over 311.5 yards as well?
So I just looked up his stats, and that's why I was kind of looking away from my computer while you guys were talking. He started 5 games last year. Obviously, he played all 5. He had 1,856 passing yards and 9 touchdowns through 5 games.
That's nuts.
Obviously, that's just shy of like 400 yards a game.
Yeah.
And that was to start the season. So I could see him going for more than 311 simply because of how much they might have to throw the ball. But at the same time, I also don't know how healthy his shoulder is. Is that going to be an issue of if he is trying to throw the ball 30 plus times a game? Is it going to start to be a problem for him? Is it going to nag him throughout the season? I like you guys said, I could see him getting down to a point to where they have to throw the ball to try to stay in it. And like you alluded to, Stone, it could become a shootout. It could become 30 plus points for both teams. And
That would be a good
if
game.
I had to choose, I would probably say that Dak will go under. And the only reason I say that is just because I don't think either one of his receivers is going to go over 62. So if they're both under that, that's only 120 yards right there. You still involve the tight ends a little bit. Zeke Elliott, I mean, that's barely pushing 200 yards. And that sounds ridiculous for me to even say that. It's because of through 4 games last year, 5 games, he put up almost 400 yards passing. But like I said, coming off the ankle surgery, coming off the AC joint sprain that he's been dealing with throughout the offseason, just don't know if he's going to physically be ready to deal with like the demands of trying to throw it 30, 35, 40 times a game. So I'm going to go with the under.
Okay. Well, I mean, Dak Prescott obviously had an incredible start to the season last year, but also you got to remember he played against a lot of bad defenses. That is, like obviously, like we said, Atlanta was one of them, and then I do remember they had a huge shootout with Cleveland as well before Cleveland's defense really picked up steam. That was the game that Odell actually had 3 touchdowns and like that 50-yard rushing touchdown. But it's against this Bucs defense now, who doesn't really allow passers to go off like that, but I still think Dak will get it done. So to close things,
real quick, Stone.
Oh,
quick, I want to tell you the teams that you just talked about. He played the Rams week 1. Okay. They lost 20-7. Falcons week 2. They beat them 40-39. That's the one that we were just talking about, the comeback. They had the Seahawks the following week where they lost 38-31. And the Browns game you alluded to was 49-38.
Damn.
And then going into the game where he got hurt, which would have been against the New York Giants, division rival, they won 37-34. I mean, they were putting up massive amounts of points for that offense. And I mean, like you said, though, that just speaks to the volume of the defenses they were playing for him. Try to throw up that many passing yards.
The best defense was clearly the Rams, and that was the game they had the least amount of success, only put up 17 points. To close things up today, who's actually going to win today's game?
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree that the Bucs have the clear shot. I'm just going to go with the easy pick and say the Bucs.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Mason. I think their team is just above and beyond, both on offense and defense, compared to where Dallas is sitting right now. Tom Brady doesn't have any injuries coming in. We know about the injury concerns with Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott. Are they going to come back fully healthy? Obviously, we've already talked about the issues that we see with that defense alone. So I got the Bucs in this one too.
It's like you just said, Dallas is returning a lot of people from last year that got hurt, and Tampa Bay returns every single person on their team that played in that Super Bowl. So how do you bet against those guys, right? I'm going Tampa Bay here. However, I think Dallas can make it close. My prediction is like the score is going to be around 34-27 or so, and it's going to be in favor of Tampa Bay.
I would love that week 1.
Yeah, it's not the Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears games we've grown accustomed to that are 3-6, right?
Oh yeah, those are fun ones though.
Those are horrible ones, man. I hate watching those on Thursday night.
100%.
Get hyped up for the season just for 9 points and he drops 3 field goals.
What am I watching?
The season opener in 2018 after getting Khalil Mack. We're up 21-3 at halftime. We ended up losing 24-21 or 24-23, something stupid like that, which as soon as halftime came around, they started scoring. I'm like, it's over. I was like, this is exactly how we're going to lose. It's just done. And then the following year to open the season, just because it's the 100th anniversary of the season, so you got the 2 oldest franchises, Green Bay, Chicago. It's a 10-3 Green Bay win. awesome.
Absolutely miserable.
Great for us Bears fans.
I'm just thankful we're not on a Thursday night to start the year again.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
100%.
That's all we got time for today, though. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe on it. Comment, who do you think's going to win? Is Dallas actually... Do they have a chance to win? Does anyone think they can win? Throw that in the comments. We'd love to hear your guys' opinions on that stuff. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are the Fantasy Few on all platforms. If you're listening to us on YouTube, check out our Spotify as well. Mason, do you got anything to say before we head out of here?
Fantasy Few out, baby.
All right, and yourself, Paul? Should probably just default to Paul first so Mason can say that at the end.
Just keep coming back. We're going to be putting this content out for you guys week in and week out. We'll keep trying to bring back the similar type episodes just to give you guys a little bit of, betting opportunities if you're into that sort of thing. But go ahead, give us a follow on all of our socials, a like and subscribe on this if you can, if you want to keep hearing this. And Mason already kind of closed us out, so I'll throw it back to Stone.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to clarify things up, again, our over-unders are based directly off of the props that DraftKings is setting right now. So if you guys are betting off of that site, these are the over-unders that we are predicting to happen off of that. But in the meantime, like Mason loves to say, Fantasy Few out, baby.